There is an idea in motorcycle culture that refuses to die, and it sounds authoritative enough that most riders never really question it. You've likely encountered the Great Commandment of performance riding. Thou shalt trail brake all the way to the apex. I mean, it sounds professional, it sounds advanced and technical, it sounds fast. It also happens to be about as useful as a chocolate fire guard when you're actually leaning a two-wheeled machine into a blind bend in the real world. The problem is that for most riders, this advice leads to a binary choice of failures. Either you overslow the bike to the point where a briskly walking tortoise could overtake you, or you realize the only way to actually reach the apex while still on the binders is to enter the corner at a speed that would make a fighter pilot reconsider their career choices.
Too fast.
You end up paralyzed by a rule that does not fit the reality of public roads. Yet we hear this from the best racers in the world. Champions with more trophies than I have socks will tell you they brake to the apex.
Until you get to the apex.
Are they lying? Are they trying to trick us so they can keep all the podiums for themselves? Not exactly. The confusion starts because we are all using the word apex as if it were a fixed point in the universe, like the North Pole or the back of a cupboard where lost Tupperware goes to die. Before we follow the advice, we have to ask, which definition of apex are they using? Is it the geometric center of the curve? Is it just the point where you're closest to the inside of the bend? Is it the highest point? If we cannot define the destination, the instructions on how to get there are useless. Riding by a track day handout on a canyon road is like trying to navigate the Amazon with a map of a shopping mall in Beverly Hills. It's technically a map, but you're still going to get eaten by a jaguar. Let's pressure test the advice against real-world corners instead of idealized textbook diagrams. Imagine a long 100-degree sweeping bend. If you brake all the way to the apex, you'll be on the brakes for roughly 3 business days, and by the time you reach your point, your brake fluid will be boiling and your tires will have died of old age. But what about a decreasing radius corner? The apex might be a half a mile away, hidden behind a rock face. If you wait to trail off until you see it, you'll have come to a complete stop and fallen over to become part of the scenery long ago. In a blind corner where you cannot see the exit, braking to a geometric midpoint would be a gamble because you've not gathered enough information to know what the corner demands unless you happen to have a drone shot of the corner as you tip in. Think about your favorite stretch of tarmac where the road zigzags like a startled rabbit. What happens if a Cybertruck is encroaching on your lane at the very point that you designated as your apex? If your entire plan is based on a specific physical point on the pavement, your plan is as fragile as a glass hammer. Why is this advice so common if it fails the moment the road gets complicated? Well, there's 2 main reasons. First, we're the victims of garbage in, garbage out. If you ask a pro racer a bad question like, where do you stop braking? They will give you a localized answer that doesn't translate to your Sunday ride. It's like asking, how many bites does it take to finish dinner? Without knowing whether dinner is a salad or a 12-pound steak. Second, the phrase has been repeated so often that it's lost its literal meaning. It's become a linguistic shortcut. When a top-level racer says they brake to the apex, they do not mean a specific coordinate on a map. What they actually mean is they stay with the brakes until they have direction. They are using the word apex as shorthand for the point where the bike is finally pointed where I want it to go. Expecting a literal translation from a MotoGP rider to a street rider is like asking a shark for advice on how to use a toaster. The shark is very good at what it does, but the context is entirely different. And speaking of being in a different world, let's talk about your intercom. If you're still using a budget headset that sounds like a wind tunnel or requires a blood sacrifice to pair with your riding buddies, you're the riding equivalent of someone still using a flip phone. It's painful for you and Frankly, it's a little bit embarrassing for the rest of us. So stop being the person who communicates via interpretive dance at 70 miles an hour. Now, there's a reason Cardo is the most popular system on the planet. They pioneered dynamic mesh communication, which is a self-healing network that actually works without the daisy chain pairing nightmares of the past. Now combine that with JBL audio and natural voice operation where you just say, "Hey Cardo," and get to keep your hands on the handlebars. And you have a system that actually enhances the ride. Now, Cardo is having a massive flash sale on March 7th and 8th only. You get 25% off the entire range. This includes the flagship Pack Talk Pro, the Edge, the Neo, all the way to the Freecom and Spirit series. Even the Edge phones are on sale. Now, this sale is a tiny 48-hour window, and for those of you who are watching this early as members, you have time to plan. But for everyone else who's just joining us, the clock is already ticking. Use the link in the description, enter coupon code RIDEWELL to take full advantage of 25% off before the price goes back up on March 9th. Get the gear that actually works, use my link, scan the QR code, use coupon code RIDEWELL, and let's get back to improving our braking precision so we can reduce risk and have more fun on your next ride. Okay then, so what can we do? Well, first, we need to stop treating the apex like a holy site. It's not a sacred geometric obligation. In the context of motorcycles, the apex is simply the point where you are closest to the inside of the bed. That's it. It is not a braking marker. It's a waypoint we use to shape the line. By defining it this way, we gain the freedom to define the apex based on our current situation. It's adjustable and movable. We can apex early, or we can apex late, or we can throw it away entirely because a cow has decided to stand in the middle of the road. Basically, the apex is a tool we use to help us define our path of travel. It's not a master that we have to serve. So stop asking, where do I brake, or how far into the corners do I carry the brakes? Those are spatial questions, and space changes with every corner. Instead, we should ask questions about our inputs, specifically when, not where, when do I go to the brakes? How long do I stay with the brakes? Not where do I release the brakes? And when, not where, when can I truly accelerate? To answer those questions, we need a reference point that matters more than any apex, and we call it the decision point. Now, you may hear riders use different language for it, especially in track conversations, but the term is less important than the function. The apex is simply a physical location on the asphalt. The decision point is something very different. It's not a spot that you can paint or measure. It's a moment of clarity when you have enough information to stop evaluating and start committing. The decision point is the moment when you can finally see your exit and determine if your path of travel is clear. This is the moment you finally have all the information. Up until this point, you're in a state of evaluation. You're gathering information and calculating probabilities. At the decision point, the mystery is over. You can see how tight the turn actually is. You can see the oncoming traffic, and you can see where the road goes next. Trying to accelerate before this point is like trying to finish a crossword puzzle before you've read the clues. I mean, you might get lucky, but you're probably just gonna look like an idiot. Now return to our critical questions. How long do I stay with the brakes? And when can I truly accelerate? When the answer is conditional, confusion often disappears. You stay with the brakes until you're satisfied with both your speed and your direction. On a long sweeper with limited visibility, you may be done braking early, and being satisfied with direction may mean that you're comfortable with the lean angle required for the radius that you can see. So here's where we would use a lot of neutral or maintenance throttle, maintaining our speed and our radius until we get more information. Now in a decreasing radius corner, it may mean you stay on the brakes much longer because the road keeps tightening. In a blind corner, You remain in a braking or maintenance phase until your sight line improves and you reach that decision point. In the presence of oncoming traffic encroaching into your lane, you might postpone acceleration well past any apex because your decision point revealed new hazards. The apex does not command your brakes, information does. Now, once we shift from location-based thinking to condition-based thinking, the advice from top-level racers makes more sense. They're not braking to a literal apex in a geometric way. They're braking until the motorcycle is pointed and the situation is understood. And this is why cornering cannot be reduced to a rote sequence that works everywhere. Riding is not a cooking recipe where you add 2 cups of brake at the entry and stir until apex and garnish with throttle. It's context-driven and input-dependent. You apply braking until the necessary conditions are met. Real-world riding is about doing A until B exists. It's conditional logic. Not A because you reached a geometrically defined position based on a mathematical equation. As you enter a corner, you are in an evaluation phase, unless you can see how the corner resolves. You stay with the brakes until you're content with your speed and confident in your direction to allow yourself to gather all the information before you commit to the apex. When we ask when, not where, but when do I go to the brakes? The honest answer is that you go to the brakes when the information in front of you demands it. You know how far you can see. You know what the surface looks like. You know what traffic is doing. You know the condition of your tires and how cold the road surface is. You are the only one sitting on that motorcycle in that moment, and you are the only one who can integrate those inputs. If you're nervous, if your speed doesn't match your sight line, if the corner tightens unexpectedly, you use the brakes. Not because of some mythical apex, but because the situation calls for control. In the real world, if you prioritize gathering information to meet that number one objective of the corner exit, you will find something interesting. The vast majority of the time, I am actually accelerating past the apex. I mean, I'm not rushing to the throttle because some diagram in a school handout told me that that's where the gas lives. Waiting until my decision point gives me all the information that the corner allows me to go back to the gas because the road in front of me is clear. If you follow the brake to the apex rule literally on the street, you're making a decision based on a fantasy version of the road. Stop trying to ride by a map that someone else drew in a classroom. Stop chasing a geometric point that doesn't care about your safety. Start asking the right questions about your controls. How long do I stay on the brakes? Until I'm happy. When do I go? When I can reduce lean angle and I can see. It's simpler, it's safer, and it means you won't end up a decorative hood ornament on a Cybertruck. Now, I hope this helped you realize that you don't need to be a MotoGP shark to ride well on the street. And if so, then my work here is done. I want to give a huge thank you to our Patreon supporters and our YouTube channel members. Your support is a huge reason why we can keep making these deep dives into riding technique. We truly appreciate you being part of the Canyon Chasers community. And a big thank you to Cardo Communications for making this video possible. Please go take advantage of that flash sale on March 7th and 8th, 7th and 8th only. Use the link in the description and coupon code RIDEWELL gets you 25% off the best communication systems on the planet. It's also a massive help to the channel when you use that code to upgrade or buy new gear. Go get your gear, get a better handle on how apexes are not braking markers or braking reference points. Ride on and ride well.